Gnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitan Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam pravajantam anupeta apeta krityam rapaino viraha katara ajuhava putreti tanmaitaya taravo binedus tam savabhutam hridayam munimanatosmi Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshay Kiptashtakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we're going to continue. We're going to finish up with Srila Jiva Goswami. A couple of lectures, short lecture, and finish up one we had started the other day. And then tomorrow we'll go back to the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. And we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Bhavishta Om Vishnu Padasto Tatsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charnaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada and Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tatsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So yesterday we heard that we're hearing different pastimes, or day before actually, of Srila Jiva Goswami, and we heard that he received a great deal of instruction from Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who the nephew of Prabodhananda Saraswati, whom we very well know, and the son of Venkata Bhatta, the great scholar of Srimad Bhagavatam, both who had been serving through the Sri Ramanuja Sampradaya, Sri Vaishnavas, who are very, very versed in philosophical conceptions, and from whom Jiva Goswami took a great deal from. There's a great deal of study tracing the conceptions of Jiva Tattva that are aligned with the Sri Vaishnavas, from Jiva Goswami, from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of the disciples of Srila Bhaktivinoda Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Sundar Gopal, Simon Haas, is doing his PhD on just that subject matter. Very, very fascinating. So here, Srila Bhaktivinoda Narayan Maharaj says that he learned so much tattva from Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And he took what Gopal Bhatta Goswami had written and expanded on it, enlarged it. And he took so much from Rupa Goswami, Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, Ujjvala Nilamani, Brihad Bhagavatamrita from Sanatana Goswami, and then composed his first and subsequent Sandarbhas. So Srila Narayan Maharaj gave a brief summary of some of that. He said the word Sandarbha means a chest of valuable jewels. Of the 6 Sandarbhas, the first 4, Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, and Krishna Sandarbha, all expound Sambandha Gyan. They include knowledge of the jiva, the illusory energy, and the objective of the jiva. All this explained in the first 4 Sandarbhas. I tried to read the Sandarbhas a little bit. I'm not very astute and adept at philosophical conceptions like that. They're very technical, very difficult to penetrate from my level of adhikar. Maybe someday. I keep trying. In the Tattva Sandarbha, the conception of Praman, in other words, the body of evidence, and Prameya, evidence, is given. Okay. What is the, and this is how the Dashmula Tattva begins also, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur has synthesized so much of what Jiva Gosvami gave in his Jiva Dharma. And in the chapter where he's explaining the Dashmula, the 10 essential truths, the root of all truths, he starts out with Prameya and Praman, right? So, what is the meaning of Praman? In any issue, whose words will we accept as authoritative? Suppose a young boy reports that a large fire has ravaged a holy place and everything has been burned. An elderly gentleman, however, reports that a small fire started in a tea shop there, but was easily contained. From these conflicting stories, whose words will we accept as authoritative? Certainly the man's words are more authoritative because he is older and more mature. Well, we get that in the mod all the time, right? Somebody come to you like completely disturbed and with some story of horror and woe, everything's falling down around our ears. And you go, what? And you go running around, oh, we have to solve this. And then someone else comes up and says something much more subdued and not so serious at all. Just a very different perspective of the same situation. Right, because all of us, we have great limitations. We are bound by our own view of the world, our own cognitive bias. We are subjected to our own likes and dislikes and analyzing anything. We're all limited by what our senses and what our experience makes of those sense impressions. And so everybody comes up with different ideas of what's going on, what's happening in the world. And because of that, everybody's always arguing and fighting. It's Kali Yuga, right? But if we understand reality based on Praman of Vedic scripture and stay steady with that, then we won't be so disturbed. The mind is always disturbing us. It's always creating things that we should be unhappy about, right? Oh, this, oh, that, oh, this person, oh, that person. Constant. The whole world runs on that energy, right? Don't let it affect you. Don't let it affect you. Whenever the mind starts to do that, just beat it with a broom or a stick or something, right? We're eternal servants of Krishna. We have eternal loving relationship with our own Guru and the entire Guru Varga. They've all come. They're so merciful. They've come to help us, enlighten us, bring us joy and peace. Focus on that, right? Don't let these other things stand in the way of your progress and your happiness. It's, this is not me just trying to lecture and preach to you and make you feel guilty and do something because of that. It's just, the path of joy and happiness, which bhakti is all about. Just embrace that. Why hang out with the mind? The mind is such a devious entity. It has nothing to do with us. Remember, it's an element, it's a material thing, and it's related to our false ego, our false conception of self. It twists everything and makes truth a lie and a lie truth. So, the conception of Praman relates to many things. Different people may assert their beliefs that this world is real, their status as human beings or brahmanas is real, or that they are masters of their property. All this false identification and proprietorship causes so much fighting and quarreling. Another man will say, oh, these things are all temporary, so do not bother fighting over them. Instead, do something for your soul and for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are permanent. So which of these two opinions will we accept? analyzing the relationship between the Supreme Lord, the Jiva, and material existence, Srila Jiva Goswami explained where we should place our faith. He wrote that the Vedas are the sole authority and that any other so-called authority lacks credibility. That which we perceive with our limited senses and mind may be defective, but the words of the Vedas cannot be so. But there is a passage in the Jiva Dharma when confronting this, and then Brajanath says, well, if we don't, he says that in Nyaya and logic, prajaksha, sense perception, and things are accepted as evidence. So how are we to reconcile that? And how are we to learn anything except through our senses and by analyzing with our mind and intelligence? And Babaji Maharaj replies that yes, that's true. We don't have any other means, but we should use our senses and our mind and our intelligence in following the Vedic version, right? Don't create our own version of reality based on mental speculation and philosophical wrangling. Rather, carefully analyze the Vedic paradigm and follow that. Sense perception and knowledge gained that way that follows the Vedic version, then that's okay. And that's our only means, actually. So, at this point, Jiva Goswami took parts from the book Brahm Sandarbha and wrote his own Bhagavad Sandarbha. Oh wait, I missed a paragraph. In his Bhagavad Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami writes that everything we see has the same source. The absolute truth is one, and he is naturally endowed with inconceivable potency. By the power of this potency, he exists within four forms. Four forms. Swarup, his own form, the original form. Tad Rupa Vaibhav, these are the incarnations, beginning with Baladev Prabhu. Jiva, the living entity, and Pradhan, the illusory energy. He is like the sun, which also exists in four forms. Its original form, the sun disk, its rays, and its reflected light, which is compared to Maya. So the Lord exists in his own identity, his vibhutis, his spiritual expansions and the spiritual energy, the spiritual environment, his special creation, the jiva, right? And then the Maya. So there's the Maya Shakti, there's Jiva Shakti, Tatashta, and then there is the Antaranga, or the spiritual Shakti. And the origin of this is Sri Krishna and his own original form and his own original Shakti, his Sarup Shakti. Swarup Shakti means that Shakti of his own form, that Srimati Radhika, non-different. So, Jiva Goswami took parts from the book Brahma Sandarbha and wrote his own Bhagavad Sandarbha, in which he analyzes Brahma Tattva, the established truth about the Supreme Spirit Whole, and refutes the opinions of Shankaracharya. See, sometimes the word Brahm in the Upanishads and others, it can mean generally the absolute truth, but a lot of people use it specifically. They say it means the absolute truth, but they only focus on the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth. The absolute truth, however, exists in three phases of understanding. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabdate. Right? So sometimes Brahm just means the impersonal Brahmajyoti, and sometimes it means the whole, complete, absolute truth originating from Bhagavan himself. Right? It depends on which part of the Upanishads you're reading, or any of the Vedic scripture. So Shankaracharya, he only established up to the idea of impersonal Brahm. So the jiva is not Brahm in other words, an impersonal God. If Brahm is the absolute truth, which is full in knowledge, as some say, then how did it separate into billions of living entities? And then where did this separate entity he calls Maya come from? If there is no separate entity known as Maya, and all is the one Brahm, where could this other object known as ignorance have come from? Refuting all of Shankaracharya's concepts, Srila Jiva Goswami proved that Krishna is Parabrahm, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of Brahm. So what Gurudev is saying here, in very brief, is that in the Shastra, the definition of Brahm, especially the Upanishads, is one eternal, undivided, never-changing truth. Right? So, if that definition is true, and that is the standard definition which all accept, then how did that one eternally undivided truth divide into many? How could it be separated into many? And how could that supreme undivided truth be subjected to Maya, which doesn't exist? And if it did exist, how could it overcome Brahm? Right? So it's a contradiction. And I remember in Bangalore having arguments with Mayavadis so many times on the street, setting up a little book table, people come up and they got nothing better to do, so they'll just argue with you, and they love to argue. But then when you present them with the contradiction, they still can't wrap their head around it because they're attached to this idea of becoming God. And so I said, and when you say that, well, if the Supreme Brahm is absolute and undivided, then where did Maya come from? There is no illusion. There's only Brahm. So how could illusion, which doesn't exist, overcome Brahm? Right? And then they say something stupid, well, that's the game. Like some wise statement, Oh, okay. Well, go play your game somewhere else. I don't have time for you. They just can't. You can't reconcile those contradictory conceptions, right? But why do they? Because Shankara was empowered to present a doctrine that would bewilder envious persons who don't want to serve God, who want to be God in their own domain. And so Maya allows them to exist in this philosophical contradictory realm. And they're content with that. So, very amazing thing that Sri Shankaracharya did. Okay, so he also analyzed Paramatma Tattva. And in the Krishna Sandarbha, he explained how Krishna alone is the original personality of Godhead. So what he's doing is that he's presenting on the evidence of Bhagavatam, Upanishads, Vedanta Sutras, so many scriptures, the idea that's contained in summary in the Bhagavatam, right? Vedanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. This is very early on. What is this in the third? Is it the third chapter of the first canto? Where the absolute truth is described in three features. There is Brahmajyoti, but this Brahmajyoti is an aspect of the personality of Godhead and cannot exist independently of him. It's his natural effulgence. It's a feature of the Lord. It's not an independent tattva, but it is the level of realization of many people, right? Because they don't want to, in their heart, they've not surrendered or embraced the idea of having a loving, serving relationship with the personality of God. We've come here to enjoy independently and separately. And so even embracing Brahm in that way is a way of still being independent. I will become God. I don't have to serve God, I'm God. Although that conception of God is extraordinarily limited and self-defeating. It's actually a kind of spiritual suicide because you're putting yourself to sleep. And this is described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Srimad Bhagavatam himself to Lord Brahma, who is Gopakumar. He says this Brahman realization is very much like spiritual sleep. He says in this world, people look to sleep to escape from the day-to-day stress and strain of life. And everybody at the end of the day, no matter what they think they are, how much they think they're enjoying, everybody wants to sleep. They want to get away from it all, right? And you're just so happy to lay your head on that pillow. And if you can't fall asleep, you're in anxiety. Oh, I can't sleep, ah. Or if you wake up from sleep and you can't go back, you know. But if you sleep all night and you didn't even dream, someone says, how did you sleep? Oh, I slept so good. I didn't wake up at all. I didn't dream about anything. That unconscious state is actually a form of pleasure because you're removed from all the stress and strain and misery of the world. And he says that's what Brahman realization is. It's complete mukti or freedom from all material suffering, pains, woes, aggravation, everything, fears, doubts, whatever comes with this world, you're completely free. And you're existing spiritually, but like sleeping, because you haven't awoken your identity and your loving relationship with God. And so because they don't want to serve, right, they only get that. The Vaishnavas think that that is a hellish condition, because in that state you can't serve. Just like advanced devotees, they don't want to sleep. If I go to sleep, I can't serve, right? So, you know, we cling to sleep because we're not attached to our service, right? You know, we all do. Oh, God, the alarm, let me sleep a little longer. But if we were really genuinely advanced or concerned, we wouldn't want to sleep at all. We'd always want to be hearing, chanting, doing some kind of service. And when you come to higher states of development, when you come into strong madhyam, the anartha of sleep begins to fall away. Because it's an anartha. It's a demand of the mind, more than the body. The body needs some rest. It definitely does. But it's really the mind that needs the most. Just, get me out of here, you know. It's the mind. And when you actually take a higher form of pleasure in your activity, you know, the perverted reflection of it is, you know, like guys who play video games, right? You know, they're so absorbed in the video game, like Vrindavan used to do that, right? And, you know, they'll drink energy drinks and stay up for 24 hours, 36 hours. Got to get to the next level. They don't want to sleep. They're so absorbed in that, right? And there are some kinds of pleasure where people, they just want to take intoxicants and things to prolong it, right? When you're experiencing any kind of pleasure, you don't want it to end. But we cling to sleep because we're not really tasting yet real bhakti. But then what happens is then you never will taste bhakti because you're clinging to sleep, right? So Srila Prabhupada, he was really heavy with this. He said, 6 hours is enough. And maybe not even that. And devotees would just, you know, we'd rigidly stay to that. And sometimes being young and working so hard, you know, your body forces the sleep, and you'd be standing up and fall over, you know, in the middle of class because you were so tired. I remember even seeing sometimes people falling asleep while taking prasadam. I mean, that's really tired, right? So you got to get enough rest. If you don't, then dire consequences can happen, you know. Car accidents, fall asleep at the wheel, do terrible things. But understand that sleep, although physically needed, a lot of it is because we're not attached to our seva. And we want to run from our seva, so we sleep, you know. So we while we are awake, while we are chanting, we try to pray, oh, let me be attentive. If I was attentive and actually tasting Harinam, then I would never want to sleep. I would never want to sleep. Oh, God, this Harinam is so wonderful. Oh, this service is so nice. I don't want to sleep. I want to do this. Yeah, so where was I here? He also analyzed Paramatma Tattva, and in the Krishna Sandarbha, he explained how Krishna alone is the original personality of Godhead. He explained how Krishna is all-powerful, Sarva Shaktiman, how he is an ocean of ras, how from him the jivas and all else emanate, and how the jivas can achieve his eternal association. Ooh, Krishna Sandarbha. Okay, what is it now? Krishna is all-powerful, Sarva Shaktiman. He alone is the original personality of Godhead. So that with Shakti, he is an ocean of ras. What is ras? Ras is that combination of elements, including the exchange of love between Krishna and his loving servants. We want ras, not the mundane ras. The mundane ras is selfishly focused by a false ego on ourselves alone. Transcendental ras is that exchange between Vishaya Tattva Krishna and Ashraya, the abodes of love, us, individually and collectively. The devotees love to serve in association with each other. That causes even greater happiness. To assist another in their service, to serve with another, that's real ras. So, he refuted the concept that Krishna is an incarnation of Narayan. Using evidence from the Vedas, Upanishads, and Puranas, he established that Krishna is the original absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that all other incarnations are his plenary or partial expansions. That is fiercely debated among the different, even sampradayas, right? And they, then it comes down to what evidence. Like, we have Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, Lord Brahma, the original preceptor, the first sampradaya, right? The creator of the universe. He said it's Govinda, right? And described, the different dhams and how they all come originally from Krishna himself. And Bhagavatam, so many other evidences there. But, so Jiva Goswami in this Krishna Sandarbha, this is where all that evidence is. On the basis of scriptural evidence, he reinforced Mahaprabhu's conception, which had been established in the literatures of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So he reinforced those principles. In doing so, he established our sampradaya upon a firm philosophical foundation. He protected the flowing river of Ras by placing large rocks of Siddhanta on both its banks. And that way, no contaminated water of misconceptions could ever enter it. In his Bhakti Sandarbha, he explained many subtle aspects of bhakti. He delineated the 64 types of bhakti, which is also in Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, and Jiva Dharma, and he expertly explained Guru Tattva. He also described Guru Padashraya, the process of taking exclusive shelter of Guru, how it should be done, what are its rules and regulations, and so on. Yeah, so that's important. We should think about that, that Guru is a special entity who's come to accept our service. And there's a process for that, how to serve Guru properly and free ourselves from our own, the restrictions, the chains of our limited mind and selfish ego, right? So, if the Guru carefully evaluates the prospective disciple, and the disciple carefully considers the Guru, then a circumstance will never arise where the disciple will have to abandon his guru. He taught that one should not accept a guru whimsically. One should accept a guru in whom he will never lose faith. Otherwise, there will be a problem. Right, the idea of faith is a very important thing. One may lose faith even from a Mahabhagavat guru if one's not properly grounded. I saw that so many times. It's constantly going on. Even, disciples of my Srila Prabhupada, disciples of our Srila Gurudev, people that are not grounded properly or have some ulterior motive, they may lose faith if their purpose in approaching that guru is not fulfilled. If you approach guru with selfish or separate interest, you will become dissatisfied because guru is not here to satisfy those things. I knew this one devotee in Bangalore. He was always criticizing people. Very critical person, always finding fault. And he also constantly found fault with Gurudev because he said, he never gave me the attention that he gives others. He would never talk to me, never do this, never do that. And that was always a cause of pain. And he would always criticize Guru for that. But the reason for that was very clear. Because Gurudev knew that if I allow him any closer to me, he'll commit even more offense. Because that's his nature. And that will destroy him forever. So he kept him at a distance. Because he wasn't qualified. He could have served without that. But then he left the mat and went to Vrindavan and lived independently for many, many years. Even in poverty, he could have gone to Radha Kunj, he could have eaten there free every day, but he was so desirous of being independent and so full of fault-finding towards all the devotees, he didn't want to even be near them. Finally went back to Bangalore, caused all kinds of problems in our mat, ultimately just got kicked out. They could no longer take it. And even then, finding fault. This is aparad. This is not what our Gurudev wanted. Da, 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 da. But you're your own worst enemy. He was his own worst enemy. He was given every chance, but he did not have faith in Guru, did not come for the real purpose, was not humble, was not submissive, was not appreciative of devotees, and was always criticizing. That is the root cause of fall down, criticizing others. It will inhabit your mentality, and you may say, this person deserves it, that person deserves it. It's easy to find fault and criticize, younger devotees, Kanishta devotees, like that. But if you maintain that mentality will extend towards others, even towards Mahabhagavats. It's the mentality that's destructive. And, so people criticize Srila Prabhupada. They criticize Srila Gurudev. You can make up anything about anybody. Why would you, though? Criticize oneself. That's the process for purification, right? Look to our own faults, right? So, don't accept a guru whimsically. Accept a guru in which one will never lose faith. Otherwise, there'll be a problem. One should make sure that one only accepts a Sadguru who's detached from sense enjoyment, who is conversant with all tattva and siddhanta, who is rasik. Okay, good, rasik. Make sure your guru is rasik. Who is spiritually realized and who is affectionate towards him. One should examine the guru carefully, even if this process takes as long as a year. No harm. No harm. Srila Jiva Gosvami also explained that all bhakti is not the same. Just as all varieties of water are not one and the same, there is clean water, purified water, contaminated water, sewage water, and so forth. Jiva Goswami explained all these issues in depth in his Sandarbhas, which one must read in order to understand the true nature of bhakti. Now, I don't know if that means one must read in order to understand, or one must read in order to understand the true nature of bhakti. Do you read them in a special sequence, or see, I shouldn't have wrote those words like that. I know Gurudev didn't say that. The editors would put it in to make it understandable. I guess both are true. You read them in order and in order to understand. So I guess it's correct. I'm not going to find fault. Yeah. Thus, by regularly hearing the knowledge delineated in these books and by associating with advanced Vaishnavas, one's bhakti will gradually become Uttam Bhakti. Srila Jiva Goswami described at length the 5 types of prema: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, especially emphasizing Gopi Prem and explaining the sadhan for achieving it. Much of this came in his Gopal Champu, which is a very philosophical work. Srila Jiva Goswami wrote that book in Goloka Vrindavan and then gave it to this world. Wow. Well, that makes sense because that's where it takes place. Gopal Champu takes place in Goloka Vrindavan in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj and in the rooms at night with the gopis. He composed so many literatures that we could spend this entire birth immersed in reading them. Moreover, in practicing the sadhana prescribed by them, who knows how many lives we could spend. If we endeavor to enter into these books, and if we examine both the personal conduct and conceptions of Jiva Goswami and try to personally follow them, our spiritual lives will certainly be successful. And he ends it by saying, may Srila Jiva Goswami be merciful upon us so we can learn all the instructions he gave in order to perform bhajan purely. So that's his benediction upon all the listeners to this lecture. May Jiva Goswami be merciful upon us so that we can learn all the instructions he gave in order to perform bhajan purely. So we have to reflect on these lectures. He's giving us Jiva Goswami here in condensed form. The seeds are being planted in our heart, and now we just have to water them, right? By appropriate study, hearing, chanting, serving, right? Serving Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. The mission of Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. Right? So, well, I guess we'll stop here then. And we will offer our obeisance to our Srila Prabhupada, who also gave us so much of Srila Jiva Goswami, and to our Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who is also giving us so much, to Jiva Goswami Pad himself, the 6 Goswamis, our entire Guru Varga, all the great Vaishnavas that ever were or ever will be. Right? Gaur Premanande, Haribo, Haribo.